The call came in at 11:47 on a Tuesday night, and I almost didn't answer. I was a crisis hotline operator in Chicago, a job I'd held for 11 years. In that time, I'd talked a stockbroker down from a roof ledge, coached a mother through the sound of her own wrists bleeding into bathwater, and once stayed on the line for 9 hours with a teenager who believed the satellites were whispering his death date. I thought I had heard everything. I thought I was immune to the cold knife of terror. I was wrong. My name is Daniel, and this is one of the most terrifying cases you'll hear, not because of monsters or murder, but because of the silence that lived inside a little boy's closet. The voice on the other end was not a sobbing adult or a slurring addict. It was a whisper. So faint I had to press the receiver so hard against my ear that the plastic left a crescent mark. A child's whisper. "Is anyone there?" it said. I sat up straighter. "Yes. I'm here. My name is Daniel. What's your name?" A long pause. I could hear breathing, shallow, fast, like a rabbit's heart. Then, "Leo. I'm 7. "Hi, Leo. It's really brave of you to call. Can you tell me where you are right now?" "In my closet." That word, closet, landed in my chest like a stone. In my 11 years, a child hiding in a closet had never preceded anything good. Never once. "Okay," I said, keeping my voice as soft as a blanket. "Closets can be good hiding spots. Are you playing a game?" "No," his whisper cracked. "I'm hiding from the shouting." My pen hovered over the intake form. Shouting. That was the word parents used when they didn't want to say fists. When they didn't want to say broken dishes or shattered glass or mommy's lip bleeding on the kitchen tile. "Who's shouting, Leo?" "Daddy. He came home different tonight. His eyes are wrong." I've learned that children are the best witnesses in the world because they haven't yet learned to lie to themselves. Adults say he'd been drinking or he lost his temper. A 7-year-old says his eyes are wrong. And that is the truth. "Is your mommy there?" I asked. She told me to go to my room. But then she started crying. And then something broke. I think it was the picture of the ocean. The one from our vacation. I was already typing the address request into my system. Every call is triangulated for emergencies, but it takes time, precious, awful time. "Leo, I need you to stay on the phone with me, okay? Can you do that?" "Yes." Then, quieter, "Daniel? Are you a real person?" The question hit me like a punch to the sternum. In that moment, I realized that Leo had called a crisis line not because he knew what it was, but because he'd seen a number on a refrigerator magnet, one of those free ones from the hospital, the ones that say you are not alone. He was 7. He couldn't even read the whole sentence. But he'd memorized the digits because his mother had pointed to them once and said, "If you ever feel very scared, baby, call this." And tonight, he felt very scared. "I'm a real person, Leo. I'm sitting in a small office with bad coffee and a lamp that flickers. And I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, I heard something that sounded almost like a laugh. A tiny, broken exhale. Then the shouting downstairs got louder. A man's roar, then a woman's scream, muffled, like a hand was clamped over her mouth. Leo started to cry. Not the wail of a toddler, but the silent, shaking cry of a child who has learned that noise is dangerous. "It's okay," I said, though it wasn't. "Tell me about the closet, Leo. What do you see in there?" A strange question, perhaps. But I'd learned that grounding a child in their immediate surroundings, the texture of the carpet, the smell of the winter coats, the row of showboxes, could pull them back from the edge of pure panic. "It's dark," he whispered. "But there's a little light from the crack under the door. I can see my sneakers. The red ones with the dinosaurs." "Good. Keep looking at the sneakers. What else?" "Mommy's winter coat. It smells like her. Like cinnamon." "That's a good smell," I said. "Breathe it in, Leo. Slow breaths." He did. I heard him inhale, long and shaky, then exhale. In. Out. In. Out. It was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard, the sound of a little boy choosing to breathe when his body wanted to stop. Then the bedroom door slammed open. The sound was so loud through the phone that I flinched. Heavy footsteps. A man's voice, slurred and savage. Leo? Leo! Leo's breath turned into a high, thin whistle. Not a scream, he didn't dare scream. It was the sound of a child trying to become invisible. Trying to shrink so small that even his own heartbeat would stop betraying him. His coming, Leo breathed. Daniel, his coming. Leo, listen to me very carefully. Do not make a sound. Do not move. I have already sent help. They are on their way. Do you hear me? They are coming. I didn't know if that was true. The address hadn't come through yet. The police dispatch was slow on Tuesdays, budget cuts, understaffing, the usual bureaucratic rot that made my job feel like screaming into a hurricane. But I lied. I lied because sometimes hope is the only weapon you have. The footsteps stopped. The man, Leo's father, was in the bedroom now. I could hear him breathing, ragged and wet. Then I heard him open the closet door. Not Leo's closet. The bedroom closet. The one where his mother's dresses hung. Where is he? The father muttered. Where's the little bastard hiding? I heard the clatter of hangers, the thump of showboxes being thrown. Then the footsteps retreated. The bedroom door slammed again. He hadn't found Leo. But he was searching. And then came the unexpected turn, the moment that still haunts me, not because of what happened, but because of what it revealed about the human heart. Leo spoke. Not a whisper this time, but a clear, steady voice. The voice of a boy who had decided something. Daniel, he said. I have to go out there. My blood turned to ice. No, Leo. No. You stay exactly where you are. But it's going to hurt her. I heard her stop crying. When mommy stops crying, it means she's really scared. Sometimes she stops breathing. I knew what he meant. I'd heard it before, the silence of a domestic abuse victim who has learned that tears provoke more violence. The terrible stillness of survival. Leo, the police are coming. They will help your mommy. But you have to stay hidden. You are a child. It is not your job to protect her. She protects me every day, he said. She gives me her food when there isn't enough. She stays up with me when I have nightmares. She told me once that love means you show up even when you're scared. My eyes burned. I have taken hundreds of calls. I have heard confessions, pleas, farewells. But I had never heard a 7-year-old recite his mother's definition of love while hiding in a closet from his father's rage. Please, Leo, I said, and now I was the one whispering. Please don't go out there. And then I heard the closet door slide open. I heard his small footsteps on the carpet. I heard him pad down the hallway, past the bathroom, past the stairs. I heard him reach the top of the staircase, where the shouting had resumed, his father's voice, ugly and raw, and his mother's voice, broken and pleading. Daddy, Leo said. The shouting stopped. That silence, that sudden, absolute silence, was one of the most terrifying things I have ever heard. Because silence, in a crisis, is not peace. It is the moment before the explosion. It is the wolf pausing before it pounces. Leo, get back to your room, the father said. His voice was different now. Not softer, exactly. But confused. As if the appearance of his son had short-circuited something in his alcohol-soaked brain. No, Leo said. I want you to stop hurting mommy. A sound. A sharp intake of breath. Then his mother, Leo, baby, go back. Please go back. I won't, he said. And then he did something that I still cannot think about without crying. He walked down the stairs. I heard each step, creak, 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 like the beating of a tiny, courageous heart. Leo, I am warning you, the father said. You're sick, Daddy, Leo said. You need help. The man on the phone says there are people who can help. But you have to stop first. You have to put down the bottle. I had never told him that. I had never mentioned a bottle. But children see everything. They see the way a parent's hand shakes. They see the empty glass on the nightstand. They see the truth that adults spend entire lifetimes learning to ignore. And then I heard it, the sound that broke me and rebuilt me in the same breath. Leo started to sing. It was a lullaby. A simple one, the kind a mother sings to a child in the dark. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are grey. His voice was small and off-key. It wavered with fear. But he sang it anyway, standing at the bottom of the stairs, facing a man twice his size with fists like hammers and eyes like broken glass. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. And then the father began to cry. Not the angry, violent sobbing of a drunk, but the deep, ugly, wrenching cry of a man who had just seen himself through his son's eyes and found himself monstrous. The sound of a dam breaking. The sound of a heart that had been buried under years of pain, poverty, and pride, suddenly unearthed by a 7-year-old's lullaby. Leo, the father whispered. Leo, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I heard the bottle hit the floor. Glass shattered. Then I heard the father sink to his knees. Then I heard the mother who had been silent, the mother who had stopped crying because she had learned that tears were dangerous, begin to weep. Not in fear. In relief. And then I heard the front door open. Chicago PD, a voice shouted. Nobody move. The police had arrived. I stayed on the line for another hour. I heard the officers take statements. I heard the father being led away in handcuffs, but not before he turned to Leo and said, You saved me, son. You saved me from myself. I heard a social worker arrive, a gentle woman with a kind voice who knelt beside Leo and asked if he wanted to hold a stuffed bear. I heard Leo say, Can my mommy hold it first? She's had a hard night. And I heard his mother laugh, a wet, broken, beautiful laugh, and say, Oh, baby. My brave, brave baby. Before he hung up, Leo came back to the phone. Daniel, he said. I'm here, Leo. Thank you for being a real person. And then the line went dead. I sat in my flickering office for a long time after that. I turned off my headset. I looked at the intake form, still mostly blank, and at the coffee that had gone cold hours ago. And I thought about the definition of love that Leo had recited. Love means you show up even when you're scared. Leo showed up. A 7-year-old boy, barefoot in his dinosaur sneakers, walked down a staircase into the mouth of a monster, not because he was fearless, but because he was afraid and went anyway. He sang a lullaby not to a father, but to the broken man his father had forgotten he could be. And that, I think, is one of the most terrifying cases you'll ever hear. Not because of the violence, or the shouting, or the closet door sliding open in the dark. But because it asks each of us a question we'd rather not answer. What would you have done? Would you have stayed in the closet? Or would you have walked down the stairs? The good news, the hopeful, heartwarming, impossible news, is that we don't have to be 7 years old to answer. We don't have to be brave in the way of heroes in movies. We just have to be brave in the way of Leo, small, scared, and utterly determined to love anyway. Because love, as it turns out, is not a feeling. It is a decision. And it is never more powerful than when it is whispered from a closet, sung from the bottom of a staircase, or offered over a crackling phone line at 11:47 on a Tuesday night. Leo is 11 now. I know because he calls me every year on the anniversary of that night. His father is in a treatment program, clean for 3 years, rebuilding his life one day at a time. His mother is studying to be a social worker. And Leo? Leo wants to be a crisis hotline operator when he grows up. Someone has to answer the phone, he told me last year. And I said, yes, Leo. Someone does. So here is the truth I've learned. The most terrifying cases are not the ones with the loudest screams. They are the ones with the quietest courage, the kind that doesn't know it's courage until it's already too late to turn back. The kind that lives in closets, in lullabies, in the trembling voice of a child who has decided that love is worth the risk. That kind of courage doesn't just save lives. It changes them. And it is available to every single one of us, right now, in whatever small, scared way we can offer it. So go. Show up. Even when you're afraid. Especially when you're afraid. Because you never know who is listening. And you never know whose sunshine you might save. This response is AI generated, for reference only.